So I want to talk to you guys. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If you're hanging out with me for the first time, please take a second, hit the like button for the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's get this money, y'all. So I was reading that the average net worth of white households is higher than Black, Hispanic, and Asian households, and the wealth gap has been growing for decades. Check this out, guys. The average net worth by race, real quick in the comments, comment down below which race you think is last out of Black people, white people, Hispanic, Asian households. Now, I'll give you a hint. I already told you that the average net worth of white households is higher than all the others. So you already know who it ain't. All right. So trends in wealth inequality, the wealth gap between white and Black and Hispanic households has increased since 2019. So did the pandemic have something to do with it? Did work from home have anything to do with it? Like, what's up with that, right? In 1983, white families had an average wealth that was around $320,000 in Black and Hispanic families. However, in 2022, white families had an average wealth that was more than $1 million higher than Black and Hispanic families. But let me give you some statistics here. And this is something you should be cognizant of because, number one, you need to know where you're at in order to know where you can go. It's kind of like, you know, if you've ever been lost, sitting in one spot will not allow you to figure out where you need to go. If you're completely lost, really, you need to just pick a direction and just go in any direction. And as you're driving, you're going to start realizing whether or not you're getting closer or farther away from your destination. In fact, even a navigation system won't really necessarily be able to tell you if you're going in the right direction until you start moving. So we have to recognize at least where we're at in order to be able to move forward. So if your goal is to pay off debt, get out of debt, achieve financial freedom, and no longer be broke and paycheck to paycheck, you gotta figure out where you need to go. So check this out. White folks in 2022 had a median net worth of $284,000, okay? So that is the white folks' net worth. Shout out to my white people out here. This is not a racial video or anything like that. It's just literally pointing out the demographic financial statistics here. Black people in 2022 had a median net worth of $44,000. So that is like Black people had like barely 20% of the net worth that white people had in 2022. Now, granted, it's 2025, I know, but I'm pretty sure that there's not that much of a difference between then and now, or maybe there is. Because if you think about it, the stock market, which a lot of people, between the stock market and real estate is where most people have a significant amount of their wealth if they have wealth. So stock market has actually gone up like a good 30% some years. So the gap could actually be wider because the less wealth you have when there's an appreciation of assets, the bigger the gap becomes. Because if you have assets, then whatever you have becomes more. Hispanics had an average, a median net worth of $62,000, and Asians have an average net worth of $535,000. So check this out. Those are some very interesting numbers. Keep in mind, Asians, Hispanics, and Black people generally, and I'm not looking at like census data right now, but they generally have about the same percentages. They represent like similar percentages of the number of people in the population here in America. I wish I had census 2024, maybe 2025 census data statistics to show like what are the percentages of white people, Black people, Hispanic people, and Asian people here in America, just to prove a point. But the simple fact of the matter is that the data is out here to show that the wealth gap is getting bigger. So if you're whether you're black or white or Asian or Hispanic, none of that really matters, right? It really doesn't matter. Here in 2025, for the most part, if you're going to be successful or if you're going to be a failure, this is largely on you. A wise man once told me you got determining factors and then you have contributing factors. And a lot of people blame their contributing factors on their current circumstances. So if you're broke and living paycheck to paycheck and you're saying, well, I'm broke because I'm black, that's a contributing factor. That is not what is causing you to be broke. You being black, you being Hispanic, you being Asian, you being white is not the reason why you are broke. And I even say white people because Trump's administration is dismantling the DEI initiatives. They're going one by one. Walmart has already come out saying that they're moving away from the DEI initiatives that they had been engaged in for a number of years. I think I saw McDonald's, Target's getting some backlash over whether or not they should or should not back out of the DEI initiatives, and Costco. Shout out to Costco. I like going in there. Whether or not I need anything or not, I just like walking through Costco. Now, that's a dangerous place to be if you ain't got no self-control and you got good credit. I'm just saying. You go up in Costco with some good credit, you walk out there, you walk in there and walk out with something you didn't really need, but you somehow emotionally justified the purchase and, swipe that card, put it on credit, finance it over the next 18 months. Now, unless it was a laptop or something that could generate you income, generally speaking, you go into a retail store, you're coming out with something you didn't need. Retail, for the most part, contains a whole lot of discretionary items. Grocery stores, okay, I'll put that into a different category of retail. But for the most part, you go into a Best Buy or anywhere it's just selling like electronics or clothes, those are really not necessities for the most part. Certainly not if you're going to like Chanel, Louis Vuitton stores, or if you're hanging out in the Banana Republic, some of these higher end, higher price stores, those aren't necessities. And we talked about this before, how particularly my people, black people, but everybody does it. But the thing is the reason why it's more detrimental to black people going out here buying these luxury branded items. The problem is a lot of folks are so hung up on how they appear versus what really is. And when you're so hung up on looking successful rather than actually being successful, it's counterintuitive if you think about it, but it's counterintuitive. If you try to look successful when you're not successful, your attempt to look successful, if you're defining success with material items, it will actually subtract from your net worth. Now, let that marinate for just a minute. You're trying to look successful when you're not. And maybe this is you, maybe this isn't you. Maybe you know someone who does this. Do you know anyone who fits the description of being broke, but yet they got the latest sneakers, they got the latest shoes, they got luxury handbags, they got luxury branded vehicles, they have, even if they're not necessarily luxury branded vehicles, maybe they're just expensive vehicles, always going out to very expensive restaurants, and yet they're broke. And yet they're one paycheck away from being destitute, maybe having their luxury vehicle repossessed. And so when you're wasting money on these items, that means that's money that could have been invested that you're choosing not to. And so if you're black, and I'm calling out black people because we just talked about the fact that black people have the lowest net worth out of all the races here in America. Like, we have the lowest average or median net worth in America as black people. So if you're black and you're listening to this, and this information applies to everybody. I love everybody. My wife is not black. I'm not racist. I'm not racist. My best friend black. But my point is when you look at the statistics and you see black people have the lowest average or median net worth, it's like, okay, well, what is it that black people are doing to make that happen? Well, maybe it's a combination of factors. Generally speaking, if you're broke and you're trying to understand why you're broke, so you can turn this thing around and be the first generation to break the financial curse of being broke or poor, you have to understand what's happening, what's the pattern that's taking place that's perpetuating the broke poor cycle, so that you can course correct, identify the habits that the rich are doing, and then implement as many of those rich habits as soon as you can, so that you can change your financial situation. So if you're the type of person that thinks, oh, well, let me ask you this. If you don't have a budget, that's probably problem number one. You need to know what you're doing. You need to understand how much money's coming in, how much money's going out. I would start off there. If you're the type of person that says, I don't want to make a budget, I don't want to create a budget because budgets are for broke people. Budgets are for poor people. Let me tell you something. If you think that could be a contributing factor for why you're broke. And I want to share something with you because I used to think that too back in the day. Budgets sound like poor people conversations. I would think of budget rental car. I don't want to go to budget. I want to go to Hertz. Hertz just doesn't sound like it's for broke people. Budget sounds like, damn, I ain't got no money, so let me go over here and rent one of these cheap ass cars. Now, but seriously, look at Amazon. That company is destroying it on the stock market. Apple stock, Nvidia. Look at virtually any company on the stock market. They all have a budget. So you're telling me Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, having a budget makes him broke? You're telling me Jeff Bezos' Amazon having a budget makes him broke? Bill Gates' Microsoft company having a budget makes him broke? No. Having a budget makes sure that you're aware of how much revenue you have coming in, how much expenses you have going out. Now, granted, we're talking about businesses, but the game is played the same. When you're looking at your personal finances and you're unaware of what your revenue is, and in most people's cases for personal finance, your revenue is going to be your paycheck from your 9-to-5 W-2 income job, unless you're a 1099 worker or maybe you're self-employed. But the simple fact of the matter is that your paycheck represents your personal revenue for your household. If you're married, what's the total household income coming in? That's your revenue. Same thing for your business. Now, a business is going to have expenses, it's going to have overheads, it might have employees, it's got staff, it's got insurance, it's got, the business might have to buy inventory, unless you're doing a lot of what I do, which is digital marketing or digital sales of products, where I don't really have to deal with inventory. I don't have to deal with supply chains and running out. I have an infinite supply of inventory. I don't have to worry about that. But if you're a business, traditional business, and there's nothing wrong with having physical products. That's cool too. In fact, I actually thought about starting a physical products business in the future. But anyway, that's another. But my point is that businesses have expenses and they have income. Personal finance, you have expenses, you have income. Your expenses, if you're doing personal finance, how much is your rent or your mortgage? How much is your car payment? If you have a car payment, how much is your car insurance? How much fuel do you burn per month? A lot of people, and particularly broke people, poor people, run into this issue. I've been broke before, so I already know how this game works, and it's stressful. It's far more stressful to be broke than it is to be rich. And they say, oh, money doesn't bring happiness. But I'll tell you what, being broke don't be bringing no all sorts of happiness either. So what I realized is that, like, when I was broke, I used to feel like, man, these car expenses seem to always come up at the worst time. And anecdotally speaking, that's kind of true. It always did come up at the worst time, because the worst time was always, worst time was all the time because I had no money. So it's like, damn, I can't believe this oil change came up. Well, you should have known it was going to come up. It comes up every 5,000 miles or 10,000 miles, depending upon what kind of oil you're using, what kind of car. Oh, I can't believe I need new tires. What? Some of these things that we have a tendency to label as unexpected expenses are really cyclical. They're going to come up every so often. And then every now and then, obviously, there could be something that's not really maintenance, but more of a repair. Okay, repairs are not really expected. But if you just look at averages and you just say to yourself, hey, on average, how much is the average repair going to be? And there's statistics out here where you could easily look this information up and just budget for it. There's that budget word again, right? So when you have a fund, whether it's an emergency fund for emergencies, but you should also have an automobile fund. And this is why I say sometimes, some folks need to have multiple bank accounts for different purposes. Some people can't see too much money in their checking account because they feel like, oh, I got money. I could go blow my whole monthly slush fund or, fund money on Amazon, sitting on my couch. And that can be a problem. So oftentimes, breaking the broke cycle and becoming rich is simply understanding where the pitfalls are. Some people can't see too much money in their hand. So what you need to do is you need to get it out your hand so you don't see it. For me, I had a very hard time saving money. Saving money was very hard for me because I had a very hard time choosing to save money with no purpose in mind. Like, I want to cop a new pair of Nike Air Maxes. I want to get some new 270s. I want to get some new Jordans. I want to get some new whatevers, right? I might want to get some new rims for my car. I might want to get a supercharger or whatever I want to blow my money on. It's kind of hard to say, no, I'm going to choose to save this money instead of buying this thing that I want, because I'm just going to save the money instead. When you save money with no point, with no purpose, it's kind of like choosing to punish yourself from getting the thing you want for no reason. But if you have a purpose for your savings, then it changes the game. At least it did for me. Also, and let me know if this resonates with anybody. Also, when I decided to start investing is like savings, but investing is saving money for the purpose of the money growing for you. One of the bases of rich folks is they don't work for money. Rich folks make money work for them. So when you put money to work and it's working for you, you have to work a whole lot less. You get to work a whole lot less when your money's working for you. So when I started investing, I realized, oh, the more I have, the more it can grow. And this is why the rich keep getting richer, because the more they have, the more it can grow. But the same principle applies to everybody, whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Indian, Native American, Guatemalan. I'm pretty sure I'm missing out a whole lot of other people, but everybody, this applies to everybody. The more you have invested in assets that go up in value, the more you're going to have. So if you take the money that you have coming in and blow it on things that depreciate, when you take your income and buy nothing but liabilities, which is what broke people have a tendency of doing. Broke people tend to do two things. And if this is you, this is okay. Maybe you didn't know. But broke people have a tendency of doing two things that keep them broke. They think that money is only for paying bills, and they choose to use a majority of their money to purchase liabilities. Liabilities such as cars and things that go down in value, sneakers. Like there's so many things that people tend to buy that they don't realize that they have literally traded however many hours it took for them to think about this. Every time you go and buy something, this is something that really helped me a lot when I was getting started trying to turn my my broke ass around. I started thinking about every purchase before making the purchase in a way that allowed me to feel the pain a little bit more than just being sucked in by the emotions of I want this whatever, right? I started thinking to myself, before I buy these Jordans, before I buy this pair of Air Max for $200, some people are going to tell me, oh, why are you spending $200 for sneakers? Don't worry about what I'm spending my money on. I'm sure you waste your money on some other things that someone else could judge you and say that that's too much, but don't worry about that. The point is look at what you're buying and ask yourself, how many hours did it take for you to trade to get the money to buy this thing you're about to waste your money on or about to blow your money on? And that really was a game changer for me, because when you think about it, even if you make, say, let's just say you make $10 an hour. So you want to buy a pair of $100 sneakers. Number one, that $100 sneakers is more like 110 after tax, right? So we got to call a spade a spade. If the sneakers are 100, but it's really 110, did it take you 11 hours to be able to get these sneakers? No, actually it took you probably more like 14, 15 hours, because you paid tax just to get the 110 left after the tax was taken out your check. So is it worth me trading 14 hours of my life for these sneakers that Nike probably spent $6 making, that they're selling to you for 110? I'm just saying. Anyway, so recognize the patterns, break the patterns if they're not working for you. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.